bit. Hey, what's up? This is Brandon Simmons for BrandonSimmons.biz. This is my weekly video blog called Bullheaded, a review of the Houston Texans news, as well as a preview of the upcoming game matchups. So, this weekend, the Texans are going on the road to face the Indianapolis Colts, a hated division rival as always, and also a rematch from last season's wild card playoff loss, which the Texans lost 21-7. But now that I'm finally over that, we'll be able to get into a couple of things on what the Texans can do to win this weekend, and just go ahead and keep the season going. So, before we get into all that, first thing I kind of want to do is just recap from week 6. And so, week 6, we got the victory over the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. Great road victory, in my opinion. Probably one of the more better ones in recent years, considering the magnitude of the Chiefs, as far as their level, as far as their talent, as far as their level of talent on offense goes, led by quarterback Patrick Mahomes. So. Yeah, so a couple things from there. Just another good performance by the secondary. They gave up a couple of big plays, but particularly the one to Tyreek Hill, who got that first touchdown in his first game back. He ended up finishing the game with like 5 catches, 80 yards or whatever. But as far as like the other receivers, didn't really have a lot to. Didn't really have a lot for those other receivers to just write home about and just have them go off on. Um, yeah, pretty much everybody else was, even with Travis Kelce, he was pretty much quiet. 4 catches for 58 yards. McCole Hardman, 4 catches for 45 yards. Pringle. They just didn't really, just blow us. They just really didn't blow you away with the signature Kansas City attack. So kudos to that. Probably, could have something to do with Mahomes may or may not have been injured or whatever. But I mean, he was still, slinging the ball as good as ever. But great performance by the secondary. Just a good performance by them. Just not letting the big plays go about too much. Another thing, the Texans, they fought through their adversity early. So I mentioned the 52-yard touchdown to, actually, excuse me, a 52-yard, 52-yard flat route catch and run, I believe by Damian Williams. And that was the opening drive, which is also the same drive that Tyreek Hill caught his touchdown on. And Texans just fell into a 10-0 hole, early in the first quarter. However, they were able to fight through that score, fight through the penalties, just really kind of go on a run, I would say, in the second quarter. That's when they were really just just really doing that damage and just kind of catching up. And yeah. Oh, where am I? Okay, so yeah, actually, excuse me, 17-3 hole in the first quarter. But second quarter was when the Texans just really kind of just went on that run and just scored 20 straight points, finished the half with 23-17. So kudos to them for just really, just stepping it up and just kind of, just keeping their heads down low and just fighting that whole entire game. So great job on that. One thing that I will have to address, and I'm looking on my notes here, and I'm trying to look on my Bleacher Report app, the box score as well. Just the missed field goals by Kaimi Fairbairn. Like, I don't know how they plan on addressing that or whatever. Honestly, I didn't check this week to see how they were addressing, but they definitely need to take that into account going into the game this weekend. He's just been missing extra points, missing field goals. And in a game against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, you can't be missing extra points, especially against a team that scores that high, with an offense that powerful. you can't just be missing extra points. You can't just be missing field goals, no matter what the distance is. So playoffs, they will be here before you know it, and it's going to be some close games in the postseason. Hell, it's probably going to be some close games we're going to face going into the postseason. That's going to determine, whether we're in the playoffs, and if we are like really in the middle of the playoff bunch, like leading the division or whatever. It's really going to determine our positioning as far as like 3 points could tell us whether or not we're getting home field advantage, or if we're probably going out on the road and um, getting our postseason chances, putting our postseason on the line. So definitely, Fairbairn must be addressed heading into this week as far as like getting that together. So with that being said, another news item that I kind of just stumbled across. Um, ESPN did a cover story about DeAndre Hopkins and his mom. Looked real touching. Not, it's just a real sounds like a real beautiful cover story. I suggest anybody that has a chance to go out and just kind of check that out, and just give that a good read as well. I'm gonna try and do so this weekend before the game and whatnot. Just seems like a real heartfelt story. It was saying that his mom had like lost her vision because some woman that she didn't even know had like threw acid on her face, and so that's just a real like sad incident right there, obviously. So it's just really talking about the bond between him and his mom and everything. So definitely check that out. Get some positivity in you this weekend. Um, Last thing I want to talk about before I get into the game items. There was a there was a tweet that kind of just sparked my mind up a little bit. It was from Ian Rappaport, and it was right after the Chiefs game, and he was talking about how Deshaun Watson could be considered, the MVP, and I was like, hmm, I probably thought about that, but I probably didn't. You know what I'm saying? And so his tweet reads, and the quote, if we're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes as an MVP candidate, and we are, he's awesome, it's time to talk about Texans QB Deshaun Watson the same way. Huge win taking down KC and Arrowhead. And so, it kind of, I kind of had to like just kind of seriously think about it, especially because, I mean, it was something I probably really want to talk about on the show this week. And so I did, discuss a little bit on my black quarterback column on this past Tuesday. And so I was all for it. And I definitely, I'm like, when I was thinking about it, really, I was just arriving at the conclusion that Watson could be a dark horse for MVP. Now, I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit on my bullet points here because I had them all kind of in order the way I wanted to talk about them. But yeah, the bullet point I wanted to jump on last about this was when I wrote that column, it was on Tuesday, or when I posted the column, it was Tuesday before Patrick Mahomes' unfortunate kneecap injury, and so. With Mahomes, he's going to be out for another 3 weeks or so, or at least 3 weeks, as reported. And so I figured like, well, 3 games. I think I haven't really looked. I think that's about like 4 games within that time frame. So he's going to be out of action for a while. And I figured like with Mahomes out of action, that might be the perfect time for Watson to kind of jump in there in the in the MVP in the MVP conversation. He'll gain a little ground, of course, with his numbers and everything. Chiefs, they probably won't be doing that well. They're supposed to be facing teams like the Chargers, the Vikings, the Titans. One other team I definitely forgot, but yeah. Yeah, so I figure like Chiefs, they're going to be taking a big hit now with those MVP conversations. Sometimes it'll go like, oh well, so and so isn't there, so the team's losing, so um, you that makes him the MVP because they're doing horrible when he's not there. But I mean, it is one of those things that's factual, but I mean, we all know how like great of a we know how great of a quarterback that Mahomes is, and that can be said for like probably like maybe at least five other teams in their quarterback. Um, Especially with the Texans. We've seen what happened when Deshaun Watson went down with injury before. So obviously, we know how great of an asset he is to this team, not just as a signal caller, but also as a leader and as a competitor and keeping us in these games. So, like I said, yeah, that right now probably be a perfect time for him to gain some ground. He has some great numbers this season. I think he's tied for fourth in the league with touchdowns. Throwing for like has like 16 touchdowns this season, the three interceptions, and another stat I had was like he's having a career high as far as completion percentage goes. So he's definitely stepped his game up individually, and you can see that it's definitely helping the Texans out this year, especially with this, new offensive pieces that he has around him. Not just Kenny Stills and a revised O line, but he also has a Duke Johnson. To receive the ball, a Carlos Hyde that can run the ball as well as do a little bit of receiving as well. So that's helping them out. As far as like just getting the ball out and just keeping them in a clean pocket. And actually, that was one of my first bullet points when wrestling with Deshaun Watson for MVP. Um, can he work with a clean pocket as he has done for these last 2 weeks? These last 2 weeks he hasn't really had a sack, and so that's a considering compared to like his first four games of the season, where it was just knockdown, sack, all types of stuff. These last two, he's really been in a clean pocket. So hell, he's been able to perform at a very high level that we're expecting him to perform at, and it's really showing right now in the Texans' record. So. As long as he can continue work with a relatively clean pocket, he definitely could jump in that conversation. And so, like I said, man, to sum all those three things up, the clean pocket, the good numbers, and just the timing of who his competitor is as far as like or who the top dog is right now for MVP now that he's out. I would say Deshaun Watson definitely has a real shot of jumping in this conversation. I guess other guys in their mix right now is the Seahawks, Russell Wilson, and also the Carolina Panthers, Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey's just a superb offensive weapon, rushing and receiving. Russell Wilson, he's going to do what he's going to do. Being the veteran that he is, and just keeping that team competitive in that stout NFC West division right now. So the same can be said for Deshaun Watson. Like he's going to keep the Texans competitive. He's going to keep them in these games. And so that's just who he is, and that's what he's been doing for the most part. Since he's been here. It's rare that you've heard of Deshaun Watson and, blowout. Other than probably in the Colts playoff game, and maybe one or two games where he just got blew out early and kind of stormed back in it a little bit. But other than that, for the most part, since he's been like the regular starter, he's just really kept his team close and tried to just pull out the win the best way that we can. So Sean Watson for MVP to wrap all that up. I think he has a dark horse shot. These next three. Unfortunately, you don't want to compare him to another person's downfall or whatever. But it's really just to say that these next 3 weeks, if he gets his numbers up and uh, just tries to get a little, he'll probably get a little bit more shine as far as like being in the MVP talk, and And once Mahomes comes back, we'll see how Watson does going forward for the rest of the season. So that being said, the rest of the season will start or continue on this Sunday when the Texans go on to play the Colts. So one of those close games was actually last year um, when the Texans went on the road and they beat the Colts. Uh, so yeah, I'll double check on that while I'm rambling my mouth. Um, but definitely, check it. Yes, on the road. Oh my god. Thank you, energy drink. Anyway, so but yeah, definitely yeah, last year Texas went on the road, beat the Colts 37-34. Colts returned the favor when it came to our stadium, beat us 24-21. Um but this year's Colts team is just a tad bit different. So earlier, I mean, hell, right? I believe the last game of the preseason, their former franchise quarterback Andrew Luck just up and retired on them. So pretty much the Colts have been kind of winging it a little bit with Jacoby Brissett under center, and so with Brissett, he's a backup, former backup for the New England Patriots. Came into the Colts about a couple seasons ago, and just kind of been a backup for Luck or whatever. Actually stepped in for Luck. I believe it was 2017 season or one of those seasons that Luck just went down for the season, and so he's just been. He's been around this team for a while now, so now it's his real shot at like actually going in and just kind of taking things over. And just kind of seeing like if this is going to be the guy going forward, or if the Colts going to have to tank and go ahead back in the draft and get themselves another franchise quarterback. So so far they just they haven't been too bad. They had a couple of wins. They've actually went on the road the week before us to Kansas City and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. On their on Kansas City's home turf, and so it's a pretty they've become one of the more surprising teams in the NFL this year. A lot of people don't expect them to really just kind of push forward with a real successful season, but they might be able to make some noise. However, they don't need to be making any noise with us, and they will not. Only if the Texans can do these three or four things. So, first thing Texans need to do, secondary has to step up again. So, yes, I get it. It's Jacoby Brissett. It's the Colts receivers. They're really not making that much. I'm really not making that much of a racket with their passing game. But what it really is, the real strength of their passing game is their ability to protect Brissett. Um, so he's like the second in the. He's like they have the second lowest sack total in the league. I think just 6 sacks. He's only been sacked 6 times compared to Watson, who's been sacked about 18 times or whatever. And so part of the reason that he's able to have that low sack total, quick throw guy. He's not doesn't really seem like he's going too deep over the top or anything like that. He's just going to get rid of the football quickly, put it in the hands of receivers, and just kind of let them either make the play or just keep the ball moving or keep the chains moving at least down the field. So that's going to be one thing that we have to watch out for. Remedy for that, just cover the receivers long enough just to make him hold the ball. So we might have to mix coverages up a little bit, just to kind of make him go from receiver to receiver, just go through all this little progressions or whatever, and then just do it long enough where hell the defense can get to him and just sack him or whatever, or just get a quarterback hit on him and force him to make a bad throw. Also, another thing about the secondary: do not let T.Y. Hilton go off. Um, he's earned a nickname, the Texans killer. He killed us in his last playoff game, killed us, last season. So, do not let him go off in this game. Just kind of bottle him up as much as we can. He doesn't seem to be making yeah, doesn't seem to be making too many headlines this season. He's had a couple of good games or whatever, but don't let this be one of the good games that he has going forward this season. So do not let him go off. Um, Take away the run game of the Indianapolis Colts. I think they're ranked fourth, if I'm not mistaken, but they've been getting pretty solid. As I mentioned about the Chiefs game, that was actually how they won that game or how they closed that game out. Marlon Mack was just able to get in there and just run the ball down their throats, and the Chiefs just could not stop it. So Chiefs, they were pretty weak on the they've been pretty weak on the run, as I talked about even last week, but they've been pretty weak on the run this season. However, Texans, they're ranked 10th against the run. So what Houston needs to do is just take away that run game. Do not let them rely on that. Because I mean, hell, if you're running the ball, that's another way that he's not going to get sacked. So just take that away and just put the pressure on their passing game for them to protect them from getting sacked. So just take away that run game altogether. Challenge their run defense. For the most part, their defense, I think, is ranked about eighth, and that just might be off the points. But in all honesty, could be yards as well. But in all honesty, individually, they're not. They're not ranked very high as far as like when you're talking about the passing yards allowed and the running yards allowed. I think running yards they're down about like 18th. Passing yards might be 19th or 18th, something like that. So I would definitely challenge that run defense. And I say the run defense because what I'm saying, you challenge their run defense, get physical with them, you keep them. You keep them off the field, and yeah, the Colts they're not really a um, you wouldn't think of the Indianapolis Colts offense as an offense that you want to keep off the field, because you're scared of them. It's just the way I see it is you keep them off the field. You don't get them in the rhythm with those quick throws. So that's incompletions, that's interceptions, that's all types of other stuff. So I think that's you get them out of rhythm. I get them. I think you push them farther into being out of rhythm, and that just kind of disrupts the offense a lot more. And that's just something that you could definitely use to your advantage. Last thing I want to talk about: do not miss the field goals or extra points. Yo, listen, I never thought that our team would have to goddamn deal with this, and well, not for a while at least, but do not miss the field goals, extra points. It's a look ever since they changed the rules where you gotta kick the extra point from like 30 so yards away. There's a lot of teams have dealt with missed extra points, but these last couple of weeks, it's really been like hold your breath, please do not miss this extra point thing, and we shouldn't have that. It's too close together. Now, if you do it like at opposite ends of the season, that's fine. But this is the last like 2 or 3 weeks that this has been going on. So um, O'Brien needs to address this. They need to either find another kicker that can actually make these kicks, or yeah, just simple as that. Find somebody else that can make these kicks. I mean, they do it all the time in this league, man. Come on. Fairbairn, do not miss these extra points. Do not miss these field goals. It's just, and if he does it this Sunday, it's just gonna. I can see it just going into a direction where a lot of decisions are going to have to made as far as like when do we go for it on two or do we go for it on fourth down? Hell, this past week they had to go for it on. They had to go for two, which we did make successfully. But you just putting you kind of putting the team on the eight ball on that situation. And I don't like to be pessimistic about things like that, but at the same time, it's like if you don't get it, that's points taken away. So just make the field goals, make the extra points, we'll be good to go. So uh, those four things. Secondary got to step up, cover the receivers to force cover sacks, take away the run game of the Colts. Challenge the Colts run defense and do not miss field goals or extra points. Texans do all that. They definitely can put a W on the in the win column. And also about the run game too. I wanted to mention this because I had to research or whatever. But yeah, man, Marlon Mack, he's decent, but he's only rushed over 100 yards twice this season. So, and actually one of the games he's rushed under 50 yards. I think it was like his finished the game with like 39 yards. So definitely just take away that run game. I reiterate that. Take away that run game. All right. But Texans do that. They get the W. So with that being said, that's all I have. I'm Brandon Simmons for BrandonSimmons.biz. Holla black.